Welcome to Project You. This podcast explores how integrating changes into your day can produce the best in health, longevity, and performance. We've recruited experts from around the globe who unleash their wisdom to transform your world. Project You dives into how to live a fully optimized life and uncovers tools and techniques to unleash your maximum potential. You only get one shot at this life, so let's get started.
Welcome back. Episode 37 of the Project You podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell MD. Thanks so much for joining me. This is the third installation of the 10 days of podcasts I'm sharing here around the holiday season. And so what I want to jump into in this episode is depletion, nutritional depletion. Don't click off yet. There's some things that you have to know. You absolutely have to know. The statistics of the number of prescription drugs that we take in America and other countries, developed countries, is just astounding. And the normal progression is a person comes in their 40s and they've got some borderline blood pressure, they're a little overweight, blood sugar is a little high. They try some diet and some exercise, doesn't work. They get on a blood pressure medication, maybe a diuretic, and then they start taking metformin for the blood sugar, and a whole host and a cascade of problems develop, which really just pushes them further into the disease process. These prescriptions don't reverse the underlying process of the disease. They actually make it more likely that you're going to become a full-blown diabetic with the consequences that go along with that, like neuropathy, numbness of the feet and hands, and kidney problems, and all the other things that you really want to avoid. But what I want to share in this podcast is I want to talk about some of the nutritional deficiencies that occur when you take prescription drugs. And one of the big ones is CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. It's ubiquitous throughout the body, but you need to understand that for people who are 40 and above, our bodies tend to produce less of this innately. And so supplementation is really fairly important. And there's tons of data out there in terms of the cardiovascular literature and arrhythmias and palpitations and heart failure and all that. But what I'm getting at is that at least in this country, the United States, where so many of us are obese, there are a lot of people that are put on cholesterol medications, and these deplete coenzyme Q10. They also deplete vitamin D, vitamin E, omega-3 fatty acids, carnitine, zinc, selenium, and copper. You're saying, well, so what? I'll just take a multivitamin. Well, it's more complicated than that. I mean, zinc is involved in testosterone synthesis and a variety of other processes, and testosterone, low testosterone is a huge issue in this country. And so you've got a male who's obese, not sleeping well, which is going to push down testosterone, stressed out from work and the inflammation going on in their body, so their cortisol is high. And then you throw a statin at them, and their zinc even drops further. So what do they get? They get low testosterone, and they get a ton of nutritional depletions, and they feel poorly. They go to their doctor, and they get another pill. It's not the solution. The solution is really to understand that when you take prescription drugs, they do have a profound effect on your nutritional status. Other medications used for cholesterol are cholestyramine, which kind of sequesters bile acid and helps get the fat sort of pooped out in the toilet, if you will. But these cause a ton of nutritional deficiencies like vitamins A, D, E, and K, B12, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, iron, folic acid, beta-carotene is what you find in carrots and whatnot. And it's just a huge problem. I talked in a previous Periscope, I believe, or maybe a YouTube video, I don't recall, but we talked about how prevalent the use of antacids are in this country and around the world. But antacids have a huge impact on the health of the gut bacteria, but also on a variety of nutrients, which over time really have a cumulative effect in terms of your health, your longevity. And H2 blockers also have a similar effect, where we're depleting a lot of the essential vitamins, minerals, and elements that our body needs. One of the huge ones is magnesium, which is depleted by proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole, Protonix. I'm not going to name all the proprietary names, but the issue is that magnesium and calcium are two important buffers in the body. And when you deplete those, you just set yourself up for bone loss. And it's a huge issue. We see people who look like professional football players. They're 6'5", 320 pounds, and they look like there's just no way that this person has any problems with bone density. But if we do the studies, we check an ultrasound of their wrist or a DEXA bone scan, we realize that that there's a significant amount of osteoporosis in young people for a variety of reasons, and one of the big ones is prescription drugs. So I touched just briefly on magnesium, but it's just a huge risk factor for development of diabetes. Magnesium deficiency is a huge problem in the Western diet, and throw on top of that some prescription drug use and maybe some alcohol consumption, and it's a perfect recipe for magnesium deficiency and to set the wheels in motion for diabetes and all the complications that come with that you are probably well aware of. And if you're not, I'll just repeat them for clarity, that diabetics have increased risk of heart disease, such as heart attack and death, stroke and permanent disability, such as weakness and ability to speak or walk, erectile dysfunction, which should get the attention of all males here, and high blood pressure, kidney disease, kidney failure, dialysis, ulcers on the extremities, which don't heal and can result in an infection and subsequent amputation. And we're just scratching the surface here. Vision, it's just a huge issue. So I just want to leave you with that. When you visit your physician the next time and the prescription pad comes out, or in today's era, the keyboard comes out because they're all electronic nowadays, be sure to ask, what do I need to look at in terms of nutritional supplementation? Should I be taking more CoQ10? Do I need to supplement magnesium? What about my potassium? And don't rely on the pharmacist or the label that they slap on the prescription bottle. For example, diuretics such as hydrochlorothiazide tends to deplete some of the essential electrolytes, and sometimes there'll be a sticker on that bottle that says, be sure to drink a glass of orange juice with this medication. So the diabetic gets that medication. He sees the label. He drinks a big glass of orange juice, which is just a huge bolus of fructose, which is sugar. And so the medication is trying to control the blood pressure, but in result is wreaking havoc with the diabetes, which in turn is going to harm the heart, harm the kidneys, and worsen the blood pressure. So it's a very complicated game we play here in the healthcare spectrum. But I just wanted to share this with you so that you can ask intelligent questions when you're faced with a new prescription or a renewal of an old prescription. Just really ask some hard questions like, is this necessary? Is there an alternative? And if it is necessary, what do I need to look at to support myself nutritionally so that I can live to a ripe old age and not be disabled, diabetic, crippled, and miserable? All right. That wraps up episode 37 of the Project U podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. If you haven't checked out the sleep course or the men's health course, I've got a lot of new content in both of those, and the free webinar series where we'll dive into specific areas and avenues where we can learn together as a community to seek out the best in health, longevity, and as always, it's about optimal living, optimal function. We'll talk to you tomorrow.